I'm Andrew Stone, production manager and mix front of house at Church on the Move here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the middle of the Midwest, where everything fun happens. In a typical weekend, it depends on what football game is being played in the region. That's a big deal around here. So it could be anywhere between 8,000 and 12,000 people that might wander through our campuses on a weekend. The central campus is where everything sort of emits from. It's the hub, and it kind of sets the tone for what we do at the other two campuses. The other two campuses are smaller, which has a charm that a lot of people really enjoy. It's still got the Church on the Move feel. It's still got the same teaching, the same type of music, and it's still very much in your face, but it's scaled down a little bit. So we've kind of got a little something to offer for everybody, which has been good. Church on the Move says it very well. It's always moving. It's always going forward. There's always something changing. That's cool from an audience perspective and from a congregant who's attending. You never really know what's going to happen next, which I think is exciting. I think that's a really cool way to do it. It keeps people on their toes. Frankly, it keeps me on my toes, trying to figure out how to mix this and work out the production week to week. If we go back a little bit, one of the reasons I was asked to come here was to help Church on the Move at the time get to be able to do productions that were a little more concert oriented. Concerts can be so effectual in the feeling that they give people and how they evoke a certain response, that there is something very cool about that from attending church and it becoming a concert type atmosphere. Now, from the production side, it is as close to a concert scenario as you can imagine. From the lighting that we put in, from the video that we put in, from the audio mix, it is all about in your face, good quality audio. We did a massive remodel in about 2009, and we basically left no room untouched on our campus. We updated everything. We updated the technical systems everywhere. But the main hub of what we spent the most time on was our auditorium, for the auditorium experience, for the worship experience. We gutted it. We rebuilt the stage from the ground up. We rebuilt the backstage from the ground up. We made basically a black box like you would in an arena, where it's a complete blank space, and then we can put in a show, if you will, with whatever kind of lighting, lasers, video that we need. So it's a massive lighting package, very much what you see on a large-scale tour. A ton of moving lights, a ton of crazy stuff, LEDs and all that. The video is all HD. It's anywhere between a 7 and 10 camera shoot every time we do anything. So it's a real deal. All the video in the room is LED video walls. So we've kind of gone away from the projection and really tried to just go for maximum punch, on every level. As far as the audio goes, it's near and dear to my heart. So we made sure that every seat in the room was a good seat. That was kind of my goal when we put in the audio systems. Can we get concert level in every single seat? And I don't just mean volume, I mean quality. I want quality audio in every seat. And that's what we focused on. So all of that, of course, starts at the front of house area with the mix and the content coming from stage. But we tried to really address that. So when you look at the room and you look at the stage and you look at what's here, people that are visiting are very much will turn to me and go, "This is exactly what I would have on a road show." And I go, "Thanks. Yeah, we went to great pains to make that happen." We had a unique situation. So 2 of our venues are on the same property. So they are run as separate campuses, and they are separated quite a bit, but they're very close locally to each other. So what we do on a weekend is the same band is on one stage, and then they will go to the other venue the next hour and run and do the same set there, and then they'll come back to the main room and then go back. So they switch. That was a very unique challenge on how do we do that from a front of house standpoint. That started us down the road of we need to make a switch to a platform that will help us accommodate that. So we had several different things we were looking at. Was, okay, how do we accommodate that? How do I have superb audio quality? That was just, it had to be that way for me to be happy. And how are we going to get something in place that felt intuitive to me to mix on? I want to be comfortable mixing. So that was where how we arrived at SSL. It was with anguish trying to figure out what platform to use. There's so many great platforms out there, but it really took a lot of testing, a lot of one-on-one, me sitting with demo consoles of all makes and models and running our own tracks, Church on the Move music through them, and really sensing how I felt mixing. When I'm mixing, I'm interpreting what's happening from the stage through, I'm hearing it, I'm interpreting it with my ears, but the one thing between my hands and a finished product is a console. So it's a really personal thing to me. It's very much like a paintbrush to a painter. And that might be getting a little crazy for some, but for me, it's a very personal thing. How does this feel? Is it tactile? Does it respond well? So all of that is how we arrived at SSL. It was going to solve our issue of how can we put in duplicate systems at these two venues that I can easily use a thumb drive or a flash drive and move the show file and be up and running at another venue. Does it sound amazing? It is leaps and bounds the best thing I heard of anything I was comparing it to. And how does it feel? And when I put my hands on it, the faders felt like home. It's almost like I kind of gave a little sigh of, okay, that's how this should feel. And so it satisfied all three of those things. And those were real severe requirements that I had that a lot of, that I wasn't finding in some other products. We're kind of unique in our venues is that we don't use a monitor location at any venue, not just this room. Any of our venues, all the monitors are run from front of house, which a lot of people groan and go, oh no, how terrible. But in this space and in this room, this is how they had been doing it when I showed up here. And I honestly didn't see a reason to change it. There wasn't a good location for a monitor board. It wasn't practical. And I actually have a great view of the stage. And as long as we have the right gear at our fingertips, why not go for it? So we've actually created a really cool culture with our musicians and with the people on stage. And it's not a culture of needing monitor changes every 3 seconds. We get mixes, we get them taken care of, they're happy, they sound great, and we move on. That's a really unique perspective that they have to be able to do that as musicians, but it works out very well. So I needed an SSL, I needed a console that had a horrible amount of output options, and the SSL had that because there weren't any definition to a certain number of inputs versus outputs. Anything could be anything, as long as you allocate the right resources to it. So that was really cool for us, is that we could use a horrible amount of outputs to satisfy all the ears. Some are in mono, some ear mixes are in mono, some are in stereo. It just depends on who we were sending it to. And that was a really cool spot we were in. How we did it before, everybody had a mono mix, and we were scrambling for space. We had an analog system. It sounded great, but you couldn't accommodate everybody. Whenever the SSL came in, I think I might have danced. I don't know. I wouldn't swear to it. I think I danced a little jig, realizing that we can basically do anything we need to do with this platform. So that has helped us. And right now, the people on stage that are on the other end of these ear mixes, They're kind of still in shock, I think. We've been using this now platform for quite a while, and it's still so silky pure in their ears that we almost have to make the mixes a little rough. So it keeps them on edge a little bit. Obviously, the musicians aren't in the house. They can't listen to the audio glory that's happening out there, right? But they have to reference it through their ear monitors. So when we made the change, that was the most dramatic change overnight. The band the singers, all of them were just in awe. For me, coming from lots of analog console real estate in front of me, I like to have a little more real estate that I can see while I'm mixing. What was so cool is the extender with SSL, the way it could come in and just piggyback right off the same DSP and computer of the main console, and it basically gave me more real estate. Another thing that's unique to this room, we have a lot going on at one time. It's crazy stuff. We'll have a full production happening, and there'll be a whole list of VIPs and hosts and pastors stacked up backstage ready to go on. So for me to really be immersed in the mixing side, I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time with a headset, talking to someone backstage, queuing up microphones and checking them. So in all of our mix situations, we have an A2, a second audio engineer standing by, and they are preparing and checking and soloing microphones all the time, making sure that the next thing coming out is hot and ready to go. The extender gave us the option to put a screen at the far end of the console situation and be able to put on one of the tiles all of those microphones and information that we needed to make those backstage checks and soloing and all those options. And that's something that was very difficult to do in the analog world, because you're sharing resources and someone's reaching over you to get to the Q bus and things like that. The SSL had so many options, just things like being able to route a separate set of solo information, having 2 different buses to do that. So if I solo something that's on any of the band instrument side or the live vocal side, it's coming up one set of headphones or a set of output monitors that I have. And if we check any of the headset mics and computer feeds and stuff like that, it can come up another set of headphone for the A2. That is crazy talk. Once I get past rehearsals and I'm in the mix, I really like the metering. And this has massive metering on here. To me, that's just nice, and it's just always in my vision. So I usually keep my vocals in front of me all the time. Obviously, can switch around and get to anything I want to, but that's generally where it lives. If I'm in a mix, all the live vocals, being in a church situation, that's what's carrying a lot of the message that we're actually trying to communicate. So having that stuff in front of me visually is very important. The other things that are all on surface tiles, they're not buried in anything. It's very much like you would expect. One tile is all drums, because drums make the world go round. Another tile is all bass and guitars and acoustics. Another tile is all of our keyboard information, which there's tons of keyboards these days. All kinds of tracks and keys and analog stuff and computer-driven stuff. So all those are separated, and then I have one tile that's all VCAs. And I generally mix with one hand on all vocals and one hand on all VCAs. That's pretty typical, and I got used to that from years of analog, and that's just how I do it. So I've got 2 tiles in front of me. One is VCAs, one is all the vocals, and then I can move around and manipulate the other 3 tiles that are really close to my field of vision and just go through all the different inputs. What's really great is if I need to step away, or I need to, being the production manager, sometimes I need to deal with other things not related to audio. It's really, really great that the A2 at that point can actually pull up whatever tile with whatever information is pertinent right there at his fingertips without having to move from the end of the console. For us, that continuity is massive. being able to manipulate and make sure that the right thing is in the right space. Because I'll be honest with you, it's very irritating to use a digital platform and be searching through layers trying to find what you need. Getting on a platform where I haven't had to do that once says a lot. In the moment, a second or 2 seconds or 3 second delay in my reaction time is the world to someone sitting in the audience. There are things on the SSL that I can't believe I have the opportunity to use in a live environment. Again, from my background, I wasn't using plugins. I mean, I was on analog. I mean, if it was a plugin, it was a literal plugin plugging into the back of the console. So being able to have things on board the desk that were things that I'd only heard on records and amazing recorded music was, still is to me, not was, but still is to me, kind of crazy. Like, I sort of pinch myself every now and then and go, you mean I have the solid state logic, like stereo bus compressor available to plug in anywhere? You mean I have the dynamic EQ functionality that's on some of the large, best, most heard studio recording consoles in the world, and I have it here? I can put it on any channel? Those are the things that blew me away. And they still do. So I can put a dynamic EQ right off the desk. It's loaded, it's there, and I can insert it anywhere I want to, and I can contour a vocal to be exactly the way I want it to sound right there. I didn't have to tie into a mainframe or a server or anything like that. Nothing against that, but it was right there at my fingertips. I like to mix using a lot of de-essing. And I just think a de-esser rolled down to close to 2K gives a nice, live, gentle presence to anybody speaking. And it just keeps the tone in check for me, and that's the way I've done it for years. Well, having a de-esser on board the SSL that I can't actually hear, it's so transparent. I hear it working, but I can't hear it working, if that makes sense. I hear the effect of it working. The compression and gating is second to none on SSL, and I thought that was something that you only get on, platinum records from an artist that you've listened to it for a lifetime. Now that I have that ability to do that on my drum mix at a church in Tulsa is massive to me. Those things were just on the console, and honestly, not accusing anyone of this, but I think some of it was a little taken for granted. Like, well, yeah, SSL does, yeah, that's on board. I'm going, what do you mean? This is crazy, man. It's right here. And so maybe I'm a simpleton. Don't know. But when that stuff was available to me right here on the desk, when some of the effects that I started playing with were available to me right on the desk, it blew my head open. And I am a massive effect guy. I like a lot of effects. That's part of our sound. That's part of my mixes. I immerse things in effects a lot more than people might normally choose to do. But I make it part of the sound and part of the tone of what we're doing. So when we've got the SSLs, I had a lot of outboard effects that I was still going to use. I mean, and that's pretty normal to have some outboard stuff. Recently, I've gotten bold. Maybe brave was more the word, and started getting involved in all of the internal effects. And so now for weeks, I've been running quite happily with no outboard effects of any kind, using everything on the console. Now that's like 25-year-old habit that I have quit doing. I mean, that's like not smoking anymore or something. This is a big deal. So I've been very happy using, and discovering the brilliance of the tape echo delay on the console. Are you kidding me? That is second to none. But I have that option right here on the console, right at my fingertips, and it sounds great. Clean, crisp, clear. I can manipulate it exactly the way I need to. It's been a complete night and day operation for me. So, and I've actually been getting really used to not having to use my outboard stuff. I never thought I'd say that. I've always liked surrounding myself with racks of gear, and it was a comfort. And now I'm realizing that you can really do everything you want to do, and I can mix everything that I need to mix and more right here in front of me. I can pull it up on this massive screen. I can manipulate it with my pudgy fingers, and it works, and it sounds amazing. I'm able to duplicate old vintage Lexicon 480s. I haven't missed it. Now that's crazy. I mean, a 480, that's a studio staple. I'm very happy with stuff that I've found in the console to use instead of that. That to me is a big deal. That says a lot about the kind of quality that's inside this. The sound we're going for in Church on the Move in regards to the mix, it is in your face. And man, I'm telling you, I do enjoy rocking. I just enjoy it. And I wouldn't be happy in a place where I didn't feel like that was part of what I got to do. So for me, and for a lot of engineers, it all starts with drums. If I can't get the drums to move you a little bit, if I can't get your pant leg to vibrate with the kick drum a little bit, and your teeth to feel the snare drum a little bit, I don't have a drum mix. I mean, let's just be literal. Your pants have to move and your teeth need to feel the snare. There you go. So it all starts with drums. I want drums to just be in your face. It is probably, like most records, the drums are as loud, if not louder, than the lead vocal. But we want it to feel earthy. We want it to feel like the big 80s records that a lot of us really grew up on, where the snares were huge and the toms were big and the guitars were bold and it was a nice stereo image and the keyboard patches were thick and intentional. Everything, we want it to feel intentional. I want the vocals to be in your face but not shredding you. Like, I want them to be butter. I want it to be accessible. If you're sitting in the room having to strain past a bad tone in a mix, that's not what I'm going for. I want you to be able to actually be enveloped in the mix, in the room, and be immersed in it, and kind of forget that it's being mixed and forget the technical side and actually get caught up in the moment. That's what we're trying to do. So getting a volume and a tone and a mix to that level takes a lot of strategy. It takes strategy from just your instrumentation on stage, your miking, the rehearsal, the actual what's being delivered by the people on stage. That's a big deal. And a lot of people don't put as much effort into that as they should. It all starts there. It's something we spend a lot of time doing. We spend a lot of time rehearsing. We spend a lot of time working through all of those elements. We spend a lot of time and anguish over, is that the right guitar? What do you mean, is it the right guitar? Is it actually the right guitar with the right tone? Is the snare the right pitch? Does the tom have the right amount of girth sound to it, or do we need to change everything? Does the cymbal cut through but pleasantly? Does it just sound like a nasty piece of metal, or does it sound like a beautiful washy cymbal? All those little things are intentional, and the purity of those are serious to me. So I've got to put something at the front end here that's going to process all of those decisions and help it, and help push it along to its conclusion. So that's why when we pulled the SSL in, and it was a bold move. I had done all this testing. I had traveled and looked around and taken my tracks with me and gotten used to the console. But I finally just said, I am willing to remove everything out of our booth, which is a big deal. 16 feet of analog console. I'll remove it, and I will put in demo SSL, and I will mix we did a massive kind of conference week-long revival at our church. Big deal. A lot of guests, high profile. That's the only time that I had to say, if I can make it through that with SSL and it will do all of the things I've described, this is a keeper. So I was scared. I mean, I don't get scared. I don't get butterflies ever until then, because I was going, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do if I fail. I mean, this is a new platform. I'm not necessarily the digital guy. How am I going to make all this work? And we were about halfway through the first performance, and I just turned around and was like, I'm in. This is amazing. This is unbelievable what this is doing for me and how this is going to work. So that says a lot. And from there, it was just a ramp up of how much cooler can this get. And the responses we've gotten from the people in the seats who don't notice the audio. They are not audiophiles. These are people that attend, and they are supporters of the church. They have no idea what we go through in the week to prepare for them, nor should they. We're here to serve them. The comments I've gotten from some of them have been crazy. Like, whatever you guys have done to the audio, typically if you get a response like that, you're ready for a critical comment, right? Whatever you have done to the audio, ... it's amazing. From people that are not audio specialists, those kinds of comments we've gotten them all over the place. And I didn't change my mixing style. We didn't change the band. We didn't change any instrumentation. We did everything. All that was in place. We changed the console we were running through. That made such a dramatic difference in our space that it's undeniable. So finding something that helps us get all of that and put it all together has literally, in no uncertain terms, been a complete game changer for how we produce and do our live events.